Ok, on commence. Bonjour et bienvenue à notre rendez-vous quotidien pour la presse en ligne et en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes le mercredi 10 février. Je vais d'abord donner la parole à Martha qui a des bonnes nouvelles sur notre soutien pour la reprise en Europe. Martha. Martha, est-ce que ça marche? Okay, while Martha tries to solve her connection issue, I will make the announcement then. So we can begin with the good news that the European Parliament has granted its approval to the Recovery and Resilience Facility Regulation, also known as the RRF, the key instrument at the heart of Next Generation EU. The RRF will make 672.5 billion euros in grants and loans available to member states to support their reforms and investments. It will play a crucial role in helping to make the EU's economies and societies more resilient, and securing the green and digital transitions. The approval of the European Parliament paves the way for the RRF to come into force next week, at which point member states will be able to officially present their national recovery and resilience plans for assessment by the Commission. A press release and a Q&A have been published and are available online. So now we move over to Tim, who is in the room and therefore should have no problem with his announcement, who has good news for Croatia.
I'm glad I didn't trip up the stairs after you said I'd have no problem.
Exactly.
Bonjour. La Commission européenne a approuvé aujourd'hui un investissement en Croatie de plus de 86 millions d'euros du Fonds européen de développement régional pour moderniser l'infrastructure à large bande de nouvelle génération. Ce projet fournira aux agglomérations rurales et suburbaines de la Croatie un accès à des services Internet à haut débit au profit des citoyens et des entreprises locales, ce qui stimulera le développement socio-économique du pays. De plus, le gouvernement sera mieux à même d'élargir les services électroniques et les systèmes éducatifs numériques, y compris l'enseignement à distance, particulièrement important en ce temps de pandémie. Vous trouverez plus d'informations dans notre Daily News d'aujourd'hui.
Merci beaucoup, Tim. Et finalement, permettez-moi de vous rappeler qu'à 13 h, la vice-présidente exécutive Margrethe Vestager viendra ici en salle de presse pour vous présenter un cas de pratique anticoncurrentielle, donc un cas antitrust. Nous vous offrirons également un briefing technique sur le même sujet immédiatement après la conférence de presse. Et maintenant, nous pouvons passer à vos questions et je passe la parole à Cataline. Cataline, you have the floor.
Yes, Eric, thank you very much. This is a question about the media freedom and rule of law. As you know, Hungary's leading independent radio station, Klub Radio, lost his license. This means another silenced voice in Hungary, as Dunja Mijatovic, the Commissioner of Human Rights of the Council of Europe, said. I'm wondering what is the position of the Commission, taking into account that the rule of law report of the Commission last year and this year did and will tackle the issue of media pluralism in the member states. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cataline. Unfortunately, if you can switch off your mic, thank you very much. We will come back to this question and to other media-related questions later because Christian has a few minutes of delay, and of course this would be a question for him in view of the angle of your question. So we will take those questions on media-related issues later, and I now go to Odile.
Oui, bonjour. En ce qui concerne le Myanmar, vu l'importance de la Chine dans l'économie de ce pays, entre environ 40% des importations, des exportations, etc., mais aussi vu l'importance de la communauté chinoise birmane qui tient quand même beaucoup les rênes des affaires avec les militaires, mais avec l'accroissement de la répression en ce moment, on sait que Monsieur Borrell a déjà pris des contacts avec le ministre des Affaires étrangères chinois et les partenaires de l'ASEAN. Est-ce que, vu l'accélération de la répression, est-ce qu'il a l'intention de poursuivre les contacts dans ce sens, et ceci peut-être aussi avant le Nouvel An chinois qui est vendredi? Merci.
Merci Odile. Une question pour Nabila.
Merci Odile et merci pour ta question. Comme tu le sais et comme tu l'as bien dit dans ta question, le haut représentant a eu une discussion en effet avec le ministre des Affaires étrangères chinois, dans lequel ils ont évoqué effectivement la situation au Myanmar. Il a également été, et tu l'as entendu probablement également hier au Parlement, où il a été très clair sur le fait que nous allons continuer et que, à travers le haut représentant, à travers la délégation, les contacts avec tous les acteurs qui peuvent faire en sorte de trouver une solution à la situation au Myanmar, et ce, effectivement, avec les autorités chinoises, mais aussi avec tous les acteurs qui font partie de l'ASEAN, en effet, mais pas que. Voilà, je pense que j'ai répondu à sa question.
Merci beaucoup. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Nabila sur le sujet Myanmar? Merci de ne garder votre main levée que si c'est le cas. Maciej, something tells me it's not the case exactly. So I see no further questions on Myanmar. Other questions on foreign relations for Nabila today? D'autres questions sur les relations internationales? Je n'en vois pas. Nous allons donc passer à d'autres sujets. Christian n'est pas encore avec nous, donc nous passons à d'autres sujets. Je passe la parole. Ah, il est là, pardon. Excuse-moi, Christian, je ne t'avais pas vu. Alors, on revient à la question de Cataline sur Club Radio. I think, Cataline, would you be so kind, please, as to restate your question? Apologies.
Yes, of course. The leading Hungarian independent radio station, Klub Radio's license has been suspended after a court ruling. This means another silenced voice in Hungary, as Dunja Mijatovic, Commissioner of the Human Rights of the Council of Europe, said. I'm wondering what is the Commission position, taking into account that the rule of law report of the Commission last year and this year will tackle the issue of the media pluralism. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian.
Yes, thank you, Katalin. Apologies for the slight delay. As to your questions, we have expressed our concerns about media freedom and pluralism in Hungary in the rule of law report. The case of Klub Radio only aggravates these concerns. Media must be able to work freely and independently everywhere in the European Union. This lies at the heart of media pluralism and any democratic system. We are in contact with the Hungarian authorities to ensure that Klub Radio can continue to operate legally. We are also looking into the implications of this decision on EU law, or whether relevant EU rules have been respected, and will not hesitate to take action if possible and necessary.
Thank you. Are there other questions on Club Radio for Christian today? Please only keep your hand raised if it is on this. Quentin, une question sur ce sujet.
Oui, bonjour Eric et bonjour Christian. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Nous t'entendons. Nous t'entendons.
Super. Ce serait donc, pour que je comprenne bien les prochaines étapes au niveau de l'évaluation du mécanisme d'état de droit au niveau de la Commission. Est-ce que Christian peut nous refaire une sorte de calendrier de quand est-ce que la Commission va publier ses rapports pays par pays sur la question? Et l'autre, je pense que c'est séparé entre Christian et Adriana, mais qu'en est-il toujours de l'enquête qu'en est-il toujours de l'opinion de la DG Concurrence sur la question du marché de la publicité en Hongrie et à quel point il peut être considéré comme des aides d'État illégales? Merci.
Christian, pour la première partie.
Pour la première partie, oui. Concernant le prochain rapport, l'état des droits, en ce moment, il n'y a pas une date fixe, mais on peut attendre ces rapports alors, dans les prochains mois, mais je n'ai pas une date fixe. Hein. Ça va être un rapport annuel, mais ça ne veut pas dire que c'est nécessairement seulement en septembre comme l'année dernière.
Comme tu le sais, Quentin, nous avons l'habitude de publier ce que nous appelons la liste des points prévus, plusieurs semaines, voire parfois quelques mois à l'avance. Et donc, je t'inviterai à garder un œil attentif sur ce document qui te permettra de voir à quel moment le débat et l'adoption de ce rapport sera prévu par le Collège. En ce qui concerne ta deuxième question, je vais passer la parole à Ariana et ensuite nous continuerons sur les questions médias. So don't go far away, Christian.
Bonjour. Comme j'ai déjà eu l'occasion de dire dans le passé, on est en train d'évaluer les deux plans qu'on a reçus sur le média en Hongrie. Le premier plan, ça concerne de l'aide à le public broadcaster, à le service
au diffuseur public.
Ah, merci, au diffuseur public, je suis en français, au diffuseur public, et on est en train de regarder si en ligne avec la communication de la Commission sur la diffusion sur la diffusion des médias, qui, par exemple, doit assurer qu'il n'y a pas de compensation au-delà de ce qui est nécessaire pour les services, et qui donne une définition de ce que c'est la diffusion publique. Mais c'est important aussi de noter que les États membres ont beaucoup de discrétion dans la définition de ce que c'est un service public. Donc, on est en train d'évaluer si le système de financement hongrois de la diffusion publique est en ligne avec cette communication. Le deuxième plan, c'est pour évaluer si le gouvernement hongrois a donné de soutien aux médias qui sont positifs vers le gouvernement, donnant de l'aide grâce à la publicité, advertisement. En général, c'est au-delà de les compétences de le contrôle sur les aides d'État, examiner quel média reçoit de soutien public avec la publicité. Si cet soutien s'est payé au prix du marché, il n'y a pas de compensation au-delà de le service donné. En général, le temps nécessaire pour compléter l'évaluation, ça dépend de beaucoup des éléments, incluant la complexité de les cas, l'information qui a été soumise à la commission et aussi le temps pris pour les différents acteurs pour donner à la commission les informations nécessaires. Je voudrais aussi rappeler en général notre position sur la liberté de médias en Hongrie est claire et ça a été aussi réfléchi dans le Rule of Law Report 2020 et là, Christian peut sûrement ajouter plus éventuellement.
Merci beaucoup, Ariana. Mathieu, tu avais une question de follow-up, de suivi.
Ça concerne la Hongrie, mais ce n'est pas sur ce sujet.
Alors, on va rester sur les questions relatives d'abord aux médias. Catherine, you have a question related to media freedom, media cases? Thank you, Ariana.
I'm sorry. Whoops. Yeah. Can you hear me, Eric?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's actually for Ariana and Christian.
Okay, let's
see. Ariana has told us several times that there is discretion, it's public service. I think that we all understand that, but I want to know what the Commission is doing to assess that. This has gone on for a very, very long time. It seems like it is, there is inaction on the Commission side. How are you going to investigate this? I've seen a lot of reports, independent assessments of the situation of public broadcasting in both Poland and Hungary, and of the advertising that's given to certain outlets. And it's very, very, very clear that it is extremely biased. What is the Commission doing about that? What actions can it take to assess that? I appreciate that there is a lot of discretion, but I think you've given the benefit of the doubt to these governments and haven't been doing anything on your side to validate their claims.
Catherine, thank you very much. Let's see if we can provide some further elements.
Thank you, Eric. Hi, Catherine. As I said, we are actively assessing the state aid complaints we have received. Unfortunately, this does take time. Let me just clarify, perhaps, if I wasn't clear before, that I was just recalling what the broadcasting communication says about overcompensation and guidance on the definition of public service. We are assessing these complaints very actively. We are working on it, but unfortunately, the duration of the assessment of both the first complaint on the public service broadcasting and of the second complaint on alleged aid to pro-government media through advertising are ongoing. It depends on the complexity of the case, on the information we have received, and on how much time all parties involved take to send to us the information. So all I can do right now is assure you that we are looking into it, and we will complete our assessment, of course.
Thank you very much. Let's continue on. Catherine, you have a follow-up question.
Yeah. So you're saying you're actively assessing this. I mean, but these claims have come in years ago. I mean, is there any sense of urgency about this? Because media actors will go to the wall in the meantime, and you can't. The damage will be done. So why is there no greater sense of urgency? And then I've got a question for Christian on Club Radio. But I'll leave it for Ariana for the moment.
I'm afraid, Catherine, I don't have much more to add. It is complex matters. We are aware of the issues, both on the first complaint, which has been with us for a while, and the second complaint, which is more recent. We are looking into it, and we're doing our best to reach to a conclusion on whether there is a substance to the complaints or not within the remit of state aid control. Let me remind you that, of course, we are looking at the state aid aspects of the matters.
Catherine, we'll give you the floor one more time for a question on this, and then we will move on if you allow. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question, this is for Christian. He has, Christian, in your response there now, you said that the European Commission will not hesitate. Well, the decision on club radio that we have today is an appeal. So we were already aware that there was a problem here. And in the audiovisual directive, there is a commitment that that there should be a regulatory body that is transparent, non-discriminatory, and guarantees the requisite degree of independence. Do you think that you have this in Hungary? And why did the Commission, MEPs, government ministers agree to this directive if the Commission cannot be bothered to enforce it?
Christian.
Thank you, Catherine. If you allow me, I would like to first maybe add a few lines on the earlier question on the public broadcasting, which is where, of course, competition is an important element, but there's, of course, a bigger picture to that. So I would like to remind of our clear position there, that the Commission attaches great value to the dual system of audiovisual media, where both public service media and commercial broadcasters contribute to a viable and pluralistic audiovisual media ecosystem. The Commission's Rule of Law report and the Media Pluralism Monitor recall that, and now I'm talking about coming back to Poland here, as a result of the 2016 reform, that some of the competences of the Media Regulatory Authority were taken away and assigned to newly established National Media Council, which is now in charge of appointing and removing management and supervisory boards of the television, radio and Polish press agency. With the revised Audiovisual Media Service Directive that you just mentioned, while the revised Audiovisual Media Service Directive has set out detailed guarantees for the independence of media regulators, no comparable provisions exist in EU law for public service media. Having said that, nevertheless, public broadcasters have a special responsibility being supported by public money. So public broadcasters should live up to that responsibility. Back to the club radio case. What I can add, I mean, I think I've been very clear about our concerns in this case, and that we are looking into the implications of this decision. The conditions attached to the use of radio spectrum and procedures to grant, prolong, renew, or revoke the rights to use radio spectrum are indeed subject to EU telecoms rules. As I said before, the Commission is in contact with the Hungarian authorities to ensure that the principles of proportionality and non-discrimination provided in the EU telecom rules are fully respected, and that club radio can continue to use the spectrum in the interim period until final decisions on the refusal and on the new assessment are legally binding.
Thank you. Nicolas, sur ce sujet.
Bonjour à tous. Sur l'état de droit, si tu le permets, Christian, je voudrais que tu nous précises quelque chose. J'ai l'impression que le rapport état de droit est repoussé de mois en mois, parce que j'avais souvenir que c'était prévu pour avant. Est-ce que tu peux nous préciser la raison de ce retard? D'autre part, je m'interroge, je reviens sur la question du respect des droits fondamentaux en matière de cette période de Covid. J'ai pas eu vraiment de réponse, mais on a une suspension de la plupart des droits fondamentaux prévus par la Charte et par la Convention européenne des droits de l'homme en Belgique et en France, puisqu'il n'y a pas de consultation du Parlement sur des mesures fondamentales. Je voulais savoir si ces deux pays, vous avez signifié ou avez fait jouer les articles d'exception de la Convention européenne des droits de l'homme, par exemple, si vous en avez reçu notification, et également si vous comptez poursuivre ces pays pour non-respect de la Charte des droits fondamentaux, notamment de la prévision de la rupture des droits par non-notification et par application de l'exécutif.
Sur la première question, Nicolas, je me permets de répéter ce que j'ai indiqué à Mathieu. Les points qui sont à l'ordre du jour du collège le sont à partir du moment où la réunion hebdomadaire des chefs de cabinet a tranché. Il n'y a pas de planning qui tienne, qui soit obligatoire pour la Commission jusqu'à ce que la réunion des chefs de cabinet ait tranché. Nous indiquons de manière très générale dans le programme de travail parfois quelle est la période pendant laquelle, la période de l'année pendant laquelle un document peut éventuellement être présenté, mais ce n'est qu'à titre indicatif. Ensuite, nous l'indiquons dans la liste des points prévus, mais c'est une décision des chefs de cabinet, en accord bien entendu avec la présidente, pour mettre des choses à l'ordre du jour du collège. Donc sur ce point, je crois qu'il faut être très clair. Sur le deuxième point, je passe la parole à Christian.
Oui, et si je peux corriger Eric, absolument. Et si je peux ajouter aussi qu'il y a je ne sais pas d'où vient cette idée d'un retard. Il n'y a pas absolument de retard. Les préparations sont pleinement en cours. En fait, le dernier rapport, l'état des droits, était en mois de septembre. Et c'est un rapport annuel. Alors, on a beaucoup de temps encore. Mais ce que je voulais seulement dire, c'est qu'il n'y a pas un timing déjà agréé, comme Eric a bien expliqué. Alors, mais il n'y a pas de retard du tout. Au contraire, les travaux sont en cours. On a juste lancé une consultation il y a quelques jours, qui était un des premiers pas des préparations. Tu peux trouver ça dans notre Daily News, je pense il y a une semaine. Oui. Alors, il n'y a pas de retard, les travaux sont en cours. Et alors, concernant la deuxième question des mesures prises de la France, je me permets de répondre en anglais. Member states are making efforts to keep the sanitary condition under control. The European Commission has proposed guidelines, as I have reminded several times, endorsed by the Council, to limit as much as possible any detrimental effects or overly detrimental effects to free movement. The Commission, of course, continues to monitor the national emergency measures, also in the context of the rule of law mechanisms. As I understand, France has just prolonged the state of emergency, I think yesterday, for a couple of months. So there is a time limit to this. Some of the measures taken are both limited in scope and in time. Others, at the start of the epidemic, were not only with a very large scope, but also not time-bound. And this was back then a source of concern. At this stage, and without prejudice to what actions the Commission might take on a case-by-case basis and analysis, of course, our joint priority is to keep sanitary conditions under control while limiting as much as possible overly detrimental effects to free movement. And this is also the spirit of the recommendation that we have put out, and where we expect, of course, member states to follow the steps of these recommendations that was jointly agreed. The main points of which are to strongly discourage non-essential travel and otherwise to coordinate on the measures taken in the sense of the map that we've put out. You will remember the different color codes where we added the dark red color for areas that are significantly affected at the moment.
Merci beaucoup. Nous restons sur les questions état de droit pour Christian. Maciej.
Hi, hello.
Go ahead.
It's Maciej Sokołowski from Polish TV TVN. Hi, Eric. Hi, Christian. It's about media freedom in Poland. Polish independent media suspended their broadcast today. Our screens turned black. Web pages are empty. It's all in protest. New advertising levy proposed by the Polish government, which will undermine freedom of the press. So I think that Polish viewers won't hear my question today and won't hear your answer today, but maybe they will hear it tomorrow. And I'd like to ask you, what's your comment on the new proposal and what's your comment on the protest and media freedom in European Union? Thanks.
Christian.
Thank you, Maciej. We are aware of the concerns raised by Polish media across the board. And if I may say, we have seen the black screens. Our concerns about media pluralism in Poland are well known and have been outlined, as you know, in the Rule of Law report. So we are aware of the draft law. We expect member states to ensure that their fiscal or other policies will not affect the duty of ensuring a free, independent and diverse media ecosystem. This is, of course, all the more important in times of the pandemic, which has hit the media sector hard. On both the EU and the national level, we need to support media, big or small, so they can get through the worst of this crisis and continue to do their crucial task for democracy. More generally, let me reiterate that free and independent media are at the heart of any democratic system, and we will continue to follow the situation closely.
Thank you, Christian. Catherine, you're very enthusiastic today. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, Eric, again, it's for Christian, and it's also about Poland. Today, Judge Igor Tuya will be standing, and probably standing at this moment, in front of the National Prosecutor's Office in Warsaw. He's not appearing voluntarily, but is making this symbolic gesture. This is somebody who is facing prosecution because he allowed the presence of media in a judgment in a case concerning the voting in the 2017 budget by the House of Representatives in Poland, where the opposition was not present. What does this tell us about the rule of law in Poland? And do you think your actions have been effective?
Thank you, Catherine. Honestly, I believe that we have answered related questions many, many times here, and I understand that you're asking us to comment on every single development. But let me tell you that the position of the institution obviously does not evolve with every single event that takes place. It is based on the assessments that the Commission has been making for some time now, and which Christian has reminded us of here. So I would not like to transform this midday briefing into a constant questioning of us about every single step that is taken and of our opinion of each of these. Because obviously we can only go so far in terms of what we can comment on based on the actions of the institution. That said, I pass the floor briefly to Christian to see if he has anything else to comment.
Yes. I would just like to add and remind you that only 2 weeks ago, the Commission has taken another step in a related infringement case on the Polish law on the judiciary. by sending an additional reasoned opinion to Poland, which was precisely addressing the issue of the continued functioning of the disciplinary chamber of the Supreme Court, whose independence and impartiality is not guaranteed. So we have a very clear position in this case. As Eric said, which we have reminded several times, we consider that Poland violated EU law by allowing the disciplinary chamber of the Supreme Court to take decisions which have a direct impact on judges and the way they exercise their function. So there's a process on the way now, and I would say let's let the process take its course. We have made our position clear, and we will continue, of course, to follow up on this.
Thank you. I will now close the Rule of Law chapter and see if there are any other questions for us today. Mathieu.
Oui, c'était sur la Hongrie.
Écoute.
Donc, cette dépêche de... Non, mais j'avais demandé la parole, j'ai patienté et j'ai pas pu poser ma question. Mais ça concerne, c'est pas tellement lié à l'état de droit, c'est cette dépêche de Reuters qui dit que la Commission donc demande aux autorités hongroises de modifier leur législation sur les marchés publics et lie ça avec les aides financières du plan de relance européen. Les autorités hongroises démentent, donc j'aimerais juste savoir ce que la Commission a fait ou n'a pas fait. Merci.
D'accord, excuse-moi, je pensais que tu allais revenir sur la question état de droit. Tu as raison. Je passe la parole à Martha.
Bonjour, merci beaucoup. J'espère que la connexion est rétablie.
Elle est rétablie,
vas-y. Elle est rétablie, vas-y. Merci. Merci Mathieu. Oui, on a vu cette dépêche. Alors, comme tu le sais, nous ne commentons jamais sur des fuites. Comme tu le sais, la Commission maintient un dialogue très intense avec tous les États membres, y compris la Hongrie, sur leur plan pour la reprise et la résilience. Alors, nous ne sommes bien évidemment pas encore lors du stade où nous donnons une évaluation formelle de ces plans, vu qu'ils ne sont pas encore finalisés. Comme Eric a eu l'opportunité de le clarifier au début de cette réunion, les États membres pourront présenter leur plan finalisé une fois que le règlement sera en vigueur et rentrera en force la semaine prochaine. Et donc, pour l'instant, nous ne faisons pas de commentaires sur certains éléments de projets, de réformes ou d'investissements qui seraient ou pas inclus dans les projets qui nous ont été présentés par les États membres. Mais ça me donne aussi l'opportunité de rappeler effectivement que le règlement sur la reprise, sur la facilité de reprise et de la résilience est clair. Les États membres doivent également mettre en place des systèmes de contrôle nationaux pour éviter tout ce qui est, pour éviter la fraude, la corruption. Et les conflits d'intérêts. Donc nous exigerons également des États membres qui nous présentent ces éléments dans leur projet. Et bien évidemment, les États membres devront réagir, répondre aux recommandations par pays pertinentes qui leur ont été adressées ces dernières années. Et donc, c'est des recommandations qui sont bien évidemment publiques et que tu peux consulter sur notre site web, où c'est également celui de la Commission, du Conseil. Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Merci Martha. Merci. Mathieu, follow-up.
Oui, simplement, donc la Commission n'a pas demandé formellement à la Hongrie de modifier ses procédures d'attribution de contrats publics.
Martha, tu t'es déconnectée.
Voilà. Je crois. Pardon. Voilà. Merci Mathieu. Et, comme je viens de le dire, nous n'allons pas commenter sur les discussions qui sont en cours avec les États membres. Je pense que le cadre de nos discussions est très clair, les règles du règlement sont très claires et je viens de les expliquer. Donc sur cette base, nous continuons les discussions, mais ce n'est pas le moment où maintenant nous allons commenter, confirmer, ne pas confirmer certains éléments qui se trouvent dans la presse. Merci.
Merci Martha. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Martha sur mécanisme pour la relance et la résilience. David, une question sur ce sujet.
Oui, très bref, parce que ce n'est pas seulement la presse, c'est le gouvernement hongrois qui dit avoir pas reçu de l'aide de la Commission. Donc la question n'est pas seulement une fuite de presse. C'est pour ça qu'on demande, on veut savoir si la Commission a écrit ou pas au gouvernement hongrois.
Écoute, je pense que Martha a donné les éléments de réponse qu'elle pouvait donner aujourd'hui, quelle que soit l'origine de l'information. Je ne vois pas d'autres questions pour Martha et donc je passe la parole à Nikolai. Nikolai, you have the floor. Okay, you do not seem to be able to connect. Yes, try again. Go ahead. It does not seem to be working. Probably a mic source issue. So we will come back to you, Nikolai. Athanasios.
Thanks very much. Let me take you elsewhere, as we say. Today, the European Commission has approved two geographical protection indications for two products from Cyprus, Lucanico Pitsilias and Luja Pitsilias, as I read in your daily news. So I was wondering, and my readers are also wondering, what happened to the halloumi case? Where are we with that folder? Is it going forward? Is it stuck? And if it's stuck, where is it stuck? Thanks.
Thank you. That sounds like sun and olive oil. I think we're very happy to follow you where that leads us. I will give the floor to Miriam, who also comes from somewhere where there's a lot of sun. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I can just confirm that the process for the registration of the geographical indication halloumi Helim cheese is still ongoing. It is based on the common understanding that we have explained in the past, reached by the President of the European Commission and the two communities in 2015, and the European Commission is in contact with all the parties to ensure an outcome reflecting this common understanding that I just explained.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Marta while she's on the podium on these issues or agriculture or trade issues? Nikolai, you have your hand raised. Let's see if you can connect. You seem to have a configuration issue today. I'm sorry, I think you will have to try to contact us bilaterally. So we move on and I pass the floor to Guillermo.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Guillermo.
I've got some questions regarding the Sputnik vaccine, the Russian vaccine. I would like to know if the Commission has any new information regarding the path to the approval at the EMA of this vaccine. And I don't know, do you expect it will ask for authorization? And also, I would like to know if the Commission is taking into account this vaccine for the EU vaccine strategy. And finally, if the Commission considers the visit of the High Representative, Mr. Borrell, to Moscow had any effect, positive or negative, regarding this vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I pass the floor to Stéphane on the issue, but let me point out that your point on contact on regulatory approval issues should be addressed to EMA principally. Stéphane.
Thank you very much, Guillermo. Thank you, Eric. You're right on the first question. If you want to have more clarity as to where this vaccine is standing in terms of market authorization, please contact the colleagues from the European Medicines Agency. To my knowledge, there has been a request for scientific advice, as it's called, but if you want to have more information on the latest state of play of a market authorization request, indeed better to check with EMA. With regard to our European vaccine strategy, I think this topic has been also discussed last week, where we said that the Sputnik vaccine is not part of the vaccine strategy, so member states have the possibility to take arrangements with the vaccine developers of such vaccines which are not covered by the vaccine strategy. That's one thing. As to whether or not it should be part of the vaccine strategy, this is something that can always be discussed with member states and Commission, for instance, in the context of the steering board. I would, however, like to draw your attention to the fact that one of the selection criteria to be selected for negotiations and a contract with a vaccine developer is the fact that the company needs to have a production capacity in the European Union. This is to make it easier to make sure that the production and the distribution of vaccines to European citizens can take place more easily. Thank you.
And on your third question, let me remind you that when the Commission has entered into negotiations for the signature of advanced purchasing agreements, it was not at all with government, it was with companies. Are there other questions on health-related issues for us today? Yanis.
Yes, hi. Thank you for the floor. It's a question about this issue that seems to have arisen and has caused concern, at least among some leaders of member states and members of the European Parliament, about the Johnson & Johnson doses. Once that vaccine is approved, it was revealed that the fill and finish for those vaccines will take place in the United States, and there is some concern given the de facto export ban that exists in the United States about whether there would be delays in the arrival of these vaccines to the member states. Is the Commission concerned about this? Is it in contact with the US authorities and the company to make sure that we don't face these delays? Thank you.
Thank you, Yanis. A question for Marta. Miriam, sorry. I don't know where I am today. Go ahead, Miriam. Sorry for that.
Yes, thank you. So the US has in place an executive order on access to vaccines, which was issued in December and calls for ensuring priority access for Americans. We are also aware that they have in place this Defense Production Act, but we are not aware that it has been invoked. So far, we are not aware of any export ban as such introduced by the United States. It's true that for Johnson & Johnson, the products are subject to an export authorization, so we will see at the time whether we need to see the concrete situation. However, we trust that we can work together with the US administration to ensure that the vaccines produced in the EU, but that are filled and finished in the United States, are sent back to the European Union for use in the European Union.
Thank you, Miriam. Let's continue on health-related issues. So please only keep your hand raised if it is on this. I pass the floor to José.
Hello, Eric. Good morning. It's just a small follow-up about the question of my colleague Guillermo, because I would like to know if finally the European Commission keeps the intention to use the Russian vaccine if finally is authorized. And I would like to know, Eric, if there are any concerns in Brussels regarding a vaccine from Russia considered a big enemy of the European Union and European democracy. Thank you very much.
Jose, we're not going to debate this every single day, repeating the same thing. I mean, come on, we have said time and time again that the Sputnik vaccine is not part of the European strategy on vaccines. It has just been said now. Any vaccine that wants to be distributed in the European Union, that is to say, on the markets of the European Union, can do so if it obtains the positive assessment from the European Medicines Agency and then our market authorization. That is a different issue from the fact that we may consider with the member states a vaccine to be included in our own strategy, which, as I remind you, involves that we invest in the company upfront in the context of an advance purchasing agreement. So the European Union has, on the one hand, a vaccine market, which has very strict conditions when it comes to the authorization of products, but they can come from anywhere as long as they fulfill the criteria to be sold on the European market. And on the other hand, we have a vaccine strategy, which has been now moving forward for many months, on the basis of which we have selected a certain number of vaccines. And once again, we are not in discussion with the producers of the Sputnik vaccine for it to be included in our strategy. I would like that to be clear because we repeat this every single day and the situation is not changing. I now pass the floor to Tommaso.
Hi, good morning. Gallavotti at Kronos Italy. Thank you for the floor. It's just two questions on vaccines, if I may, for Stefan. The first one is on Novavax, because we've been told that the contract might be very close in time. I wonder if we have to expect it within this week or next week. And the second question, I apologize for taking advantage of Stefan, but it's just because in Italy, as you know, there's a mess of statements by presidents of region. They want to purchase autonomously vaccines and so on. I just wonder, if I remember well, in the steering committee, it is possible for a member state, to purchase the doses which are not bought by other member states for some reasons. Is it so? Can you confirm that I remember correctly? Thank you.
Thank you. I pass the floor to Stefan.
Thank you very much, Tommaso. On your first question on Novavax, you know that we had successfully concluded exploratory talks some time ago in December, and negotiations are ongoing. I cannot say at this stage when we expect the contract to be concluded. Of course, it's important for us that we continue developing a diversified portfolio with different companies using different technologies and different platforms, and so we are working towards the conclusion of a contract with this company. That's one thing. On the second issue, the doses that are available for the member states. You know that when we, before we sign a contract with or an advanced purchase agreement with a company, member states are first asked, of course, to whether they want to opt out or not. This has not been the case. And then also discussions take place between the member states as to the number of doses that are divided between the member states. We always use as the starting point, as we said before on many occasions, the population-based distribution key. So we look at the population on that basis, the distribution happens between the member states. This is a key which is very fair, and just because it takes into account the fact that the virus strikes everywhere. But of course, member states may, if they wish, have less numbers of a certain vaccine. Others may wish more of the vaccine. So it is possible that the system gives this flexibility to agree on a different distribution mechanism. So member states may agree on this, and when there's an agreement on this, then indeed it is clear for the company also how many vaccines have to be delivered to the different member states using this new distribution key. I hope this clarifies things a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. And now we move to Marco.
Merci, Eric. J'ai une question sur le même sujet. C'est un peu un follow-up de la question de mon collègue. La région italienne, Veneto, et des autres régions ont dit d'être aussi intéressées à ça, a annoncé qu'il est en train de négocier directement avec les producteurs de vaccins pour l'approvisionnement de doses pour la région. Vu qu'il s'agit d'entreprises avec lesquelles la Commission a déjà signé des contrats, je voudrais d'abord savoir si ça est en ligne avec la stratégie européenne, donc si si ce n'est pas interdit, vu qu'il s'agit de négociations avec des entreprises qui ont déjà signé un contrat avec l'Union européenne. Et dans ce cas-là, je voudrais savoir si vous encouragez ou pas les régions à négocier d'une façon bilatérale avec les producteurs de vaccins. Merci.
Merci. Stéphane.
Merci beaucoup pour cette question. Oui, la base de notre stratégie, c'est de travailler ensemble, de faire des négociations ensemble et donc de ne pas avoir des négociations parallèles parce que ça remettrait en question, je dirais, la force et l'efficacité de notre stratégie. Et donc, sur cette base-là, les États membres sont d'accord de ne pas entamer des négociations parallèles. En plus, nos négociations prennent en considération évidemment les besoins des différents États membres, les besoins qu'ils ont en termes de doses, et ces besoins sont pris en considération dans les négociations que nous avons avec les différentes sociétés. Donc, en plus, nous avons développé, suivant cette procédure conjointe, je dirais, nous avons entre-temps élaboré 2,3 milliards de doses. Presque 1,2 milliard de doses sont produites par des sociétés qui ont reçu le feu vert de l'EMA. Donc nous sommes confiants que nos lignes, que notre stratégie permettra aux États membres de recevoir les doses dont ils ont besoin pour leur campagne de vaccination. Donc il n'y aura pas besoin de conventions bilatérales aux négociations parallèles qui seraient en effet contraires juridiquement et politiquement à notre stratégie pour les vaccins. Merci.
Merci. Nous allons bientôt devoir arrêter pour passer à la conférence de presse de la vice-présidente exécutive, Madame Vestager. Mais nous continuons sur le sujet avec une ou deux autres questions. David.
Thanks very much, Eric. In the Parliament today, President von der Leyen said it is also a fact that today, in the fight against the virus, we are still not where we want to be. And I wonder if you or Stefan could say, are there any other steps that are being taken to get where the EU wants to be? Has there been any progress in Commissioner Breton's effort to find increased production possibilities? Or at this point, is it just a matter of accepting that things are moving slower than everyone had hoped? Thank you.
David, surely you're not asking us to intervene just after the President has spoken. She has laid out the steps which are being taken. Let me remind you that the task force has just been set up. Clearly, work is ongoing, and obviously we will be reporting on it as developments occur. I will take one last question from Naomi.
Thank you for taking my question, Eric. I want to know, please, why is President von der Leyen no longer going to give a response to the MEPs in the debate today? It seems that she's been replaced by Commissioner Stella Kyriakides. Thanks.
No, actually, I think this is what was foreseen from the beginning. She will be staying until the end of the debate, but it's a very usual practice that the President makes the introductory speech, but that the debate is actually closed by a commissioner in charge of the portfolio. So this is absolutely normal practice. There is no change. Naomi, you have a follow-up.
Yeah, but she was down on the roster to speak until just a short while ago. Her name was there as someone who would give a response. So why would that have been changed?
I can only tell you what I've said. Commissioner Kyriakides is going to make the closing remarks. I understand that this is what was planned. I cannot tell you exactly why it is that the President's name was on the roster, but I understand that this is what is the plan. In any case, as you know, the Commissioner, Mrs. Stella Kyriakides, is in charge of a health policy, and therefore it is entirely appropriate that she would also intervene in a debate organized by the European Parliament on this issue. With that, I will close. It is now exactly 1 p.m. and we will move to the press conference by Executive Vice President Mrs. Vestager. Thank you for your attention. See you tomorrow.